Welcome back then folks to day 2 of Special Projects Pack number 20, and this is the first of course, 2 rally builds, 2 Toyotas in particular. The Supra, inspired by the Safari Rally Supra, is coming later in the week, and this time it's a bit more of a kind of a fictional combination of a few different ideas put together. It's an AE86, of course, Corolla rally build in a general sense, but inspired more so by Group B. And of course there was a Group B equivalent Celica at the time, which had most of its success on the Safari side of the rally, which is funny because so did the Supra in that A70 form, which we'll get to in due time. This one though is a bit of a mishmash of both put together. On the smaller end of the spectrum, physically speaking, in terms of an AE86, and as a quick shout out to a good bit of advice, I guess you could say, or a suggestion on the trailer, I think it was, Sean Daly said about the rally settings being a bit too bouncy, and that's a fair shout, because without even thinking about it, I've been mostly setting up pretty much all of the cars with more of a circuit racing kind of approach, and hadn't really given much thought to it being actually a rally build. As dumb as that is, sometimes it is a brain on autopilot kind of moment. So I've made a couple of changes on this one, and it doesn't bounce around as much. So if you did want to retroactively go back, and I'm pretty sure I used to do rally builds in that way anyway before GT7, so you could readjust those and update them if you wanted to. And of course that will apply to the Supra coming down the line as well. As far as the livery on this one, I personally love what the player did. Of course, this one is, in fact I'm saying of course, I'm pretty sure it has the wide body applied. It certainly looks like it, so you will have to factor that in. As far as the parts, you don't have to do necessarily exactly what I've done, because like I said, this is technically a fictional car, but to me it kind of feels about right. 850 kilos with 300 horsepower, so it's not the crazy end of the Group B kind of spectrum, but that kind of feels appropriate to me to what a car like this could have had, given that great level of weight that it's working with. And of course with a rear-wheel drive chassis rather than the all-wheel drive advantage, you don't want so much power that you're not really getting any advantage from it if you're just wheel spinning all the time. So as far as the actual bits and bobs which we fitted, for the ultimate stuff we've got the High Lift S cams, which of course cancels out the lower version, the titanium rods and pistons. I have gone for the carbon prop. It could be a bit of overkill if you want to go more period correct, but I'll leave that up to you. As far as the sports section, we've got the Stage 1 weight. Of course it has the comfort mediums anyway, so you don't need to fit those. We've got, again, the high lift cams cancelled out by the S version, the bored out engine, the high compression pistons, Stage 2 weight as well. Of course the power restrictor and the ballast, as well as naturally the dirt tyres or the snow tyres depending on where you plan to take it. We've got the fully customised ECU, the racing crank. I bought 2 different turbos to see which one I preferred. I ultimately ended up going with the mid-range, and in particular if you do use it of course with a manual box, as I usually recommend with the rally build, then you can much more easily take advantage of that kind of medium power band. If though you do either want to use just a kind of a smash box kind of approach, just banging through the gears as quickly as possible, or if you do want to drive auto, you might want to go for the low range, because then you have that instant little punch. Not quite as good top end, but again it's a rally car, so it's not like you're getting top end that often. Again, I'll leave it up to you though. You've got the supercharger option as well, which doesn't suffer quite as badly from lag anyway. We've got the fully customised diff, the manual box, because again, you've got the ratios to work with, but it has that more kind of slight lag classic feel, if that makes sense. You could, again, go for a full sequential, I guess, if you wanted to. It's down to you. And you do get a nice little performance point advantage by having the manual version. I have increased the rigidity for this one, as well as the Stage 3 weight, as you could see. We've got the polished ports, the balance tuning, the stroked out engine as well, the race intercooler, filter, silencer, manifold, pads and discs. Could go for drilled, could go for slotted, leave it up to you of course. The racing clutch and flywheel, suspension, the fully customised race transmission as well. Now I'm going to double check in a second because I don't recall which one I'm using. I'm pretty sure it was the manual, but of course you can just skip forward in the video and you have the advantage there over me recording this in real time. Then for the extreme section we've got the steering angle adapter, the hydraulic handbrake as well, and for the ultimate section of course we already covered that. So pretty much any vehicle regardless of power typically does have a reasonably low point level, or at least they all kind of seem to end up being somewhere around the mid 500 point region, and this is no exception. 300 horsepower, 543 points, so it's pretty modest, and again the rear wheel drive is bound to make a difference there as well. For the transmission I have, as you can see, and like I mentioned just now, gone for the manual version. If you do go for the full race transmission, you will get through the gears a bit quicker in terms of having less lag time, but it will have a higher point level. On the one hand, that doesn't matter too much in the game anyway, so it depends how kind of authentic and period correct you want the car to feel. Do you want it to feel too good on gear changes, or do you want it to feel maybe a slight bit sluggish, because it is replicating that kind of 80s vibe anyway? So, like I said, I'll leave it up to you. As far as the suspension, of course we've got the dirt tyres fitted, that goes without saying. But for the suspension, slight difference on the front. 2 mil higher, technically, which if you look in the menu, it doesn't really look like it's higher on the front. It looks more like it's evened out, which is what I was going for. We've got 5 on the anti-roll, and this is where I change things compared to my initial setup. So we've reduced the compression, so the dampers can compress very easily, and then stiffened up the rebound, so it can absorb a bump, if you will, but then it doesn't rebound very hard in response to that. And of course the springs are reduced a little bit compared to what I typically have as well, so you've got again a bit more movement going on there, but not so that it carries on bouncing over and over and over again. And again, you'll see in a second, if you compare it to the trailer that I did, you can kind of see the change, where there's less bounce, soaks up the bumps. Like I said, it was a good shout, and it is the kind of thing I would have done back in the day and just haven't, for whatever reason, in GT7. We've got 2 degrees of camber, mostly just to counteract the rear-wheel drive disadvantage. As far as the tow, we've towed in 0.20 on the rear and out 0.10 on the front. For the diff, pretty simple. I think it's what it comes with, if I recall correctly, 10, 30 and 20. Turns out works pretty damn well for this car, at least for my personal style. For the auto setting, very close, 220 kilometers an hour, and the majority of the time, depends on the rally circuit, but you're going to only be using really like 4 gears, maybe, even with the super close ratios. And most of the time you'll be in second and third. As far as the ballast, all that kind of stuff, I decided to make it 850 kilos. There's no real reason, you don't have to do that, I just like the number, and it seemed like it would be accurate for the time period and the kind of weight I can imagine a car like this being. So if you want to go lower, of course there's absolutely no reason why not. I have taken the opportunity though to put that more towards the rear, just to get it a bit closer to a 50-50 and make it, if anything, slightly less tail happy, because obviously you don't want to spend too much time drifting through a corner. As far as the ECU, the power restrictor, nothing is done there. Turns out quite nicely at 300 horses on the dot. For the downforce, given that it doesn't have much on the front, in fact none on this occasion, I didn't want it to have too much on the rear, so I've gone as low as possible there. Like I said, medium RPM turbo is fitted. You can see the slight difference in the power curve if you do go for the low one, so it does come in a bit punchier, but not quite as strong in, well, as the name implies, the mid-range. So give it a try on both, I guess. It depends on the track, depends on your driving style, your preference, and it's not like you can't just change it if you don't like it. That's the beauty of fitting different parts. And then over here, we've got everything which we've fitted, which, as you can see here, is fairly substantial on this occasion. But with all of that being said, we'll jump out to the dirt and show you what it can do in practice. Now, as I said, you will see a difference between the trailer version of the car, and of course the trailer has the more stylized camera angles anyway, but you can still see it bouncing around, which looks cool. But then if you compare that to this version, you can see it soaks up the bumps a lot more. I'm pretty sure with the bounding and rebounding on the dampers, that is how I think I used to do this back in the GT6 days, so I'm not exactly sure why I started to change. I guess it was just a brain fart or whatever, it doesn't matter, we're doing it differently now anyway. So like I said, if you do want to retroactively go back and make this change to a few other builds, then of course there's no reason why you can't do that. So give it a try. I actually personally really enjoy driving this on the dirt. It's probably one of my preferred rear-wheel drive cars actually, and 300 horses feels about right for it. So give it a try, see if you enjoy it. Of course, stick around for the Supra Rally build later on in the week, as well as all the others as well. But for now, thanks for watching.